Peace, peace. This your host, Selah Shalom, and this is the Cosmon Teachings in the Words of Jehovah and His Angel Ambassadors from the Cosmon Bible or WASPI. And the topic of discussion today is called Looeamong falsely styles himself Christ and the origin of Christianity. Now, many people believe that Christianity was established by the life of Yeshua, but what Yeshua did was restore the ancient order of Moses among the Israelites that followed him. Not all Israelites believed in Yeshua. Yeshua never practiced a Father, Son, Holy Ghost doctrine. All these were pagan customs. But here I will reveal the truth behind this religion, Christianity, and its founder. People try to say the term Messiah and Christ are the same, but here I will show there's a difference. The word anointed is attributed to the term Messiah. But when we trace the Hebrew root word for Mashiach, it is Mashach, which is a primitive root to rub with oil, or one who is smeared with oil. This is the root word for Messiah, to be smeared with oil. So when we refer to anointed, we are referring to one who is smeared with oil. Now the term Christ, which is incorrectly used to refer to Messiah, is Greek in its origin and not Hebrew. And the term Christ was in use before Yeshua. The term Christ comes from the Chi and the Rho in the Greek alphabet. In Greek, the Chi is the letter X and the Rho is the letter P, which forms together the Chi Rho, which is where Christianity got their cross from. These two Greek letters, the X and the P, which the X also represents a crossbone. Now, some coins of Ptolemy during the 2nd century BC were marked with the Chi and the Rho, showing you proof of his existence before the Messiah. The combined letters Chi and the Rho stands for KRISTE, meaning good. So before the Messiah, that term had a significant meaning referring to good, and it also had other meanings as well. And it is from this Chi and Rho that the term Christ stems from, before it became known to mean anointed, which came later. The word Christos is found used from the 5th century BC by Herodias. Now with that, it proves that the term Chi Rho was in use before and during the 1st century. So it is this term Christ that Looeamong, the false Trinity God, used for himself, as I will explain later. And 300 years before Constantine established Christianity as a state religion, you had the Piso-Roman family in the 1st century who was responsible for building the foundation of Christianity and the New Testament, which in return Constantine used to compile his version. So Yeshua never came with the New Testament, but a reestablishment of an old ancient order of Moses, as I described in the story of Yeshua. Now, God's book of Esther, chapter 45, verse 1 through 20, it states, verse 1, the Lord said, Now, behold, Looeamong stood no longer upon the practice of righteousness, but upon might. Verse 2, neither considered he more the resurrection of mortals or angels. Verse 3, the craft and wisdom of Baal baffled Looeamong in both his heavenly battles and his battles for mortals. Verse 4, behold, the whole of the countries of Egypt, Persia, Hellas, and Europe were in war, and the heavens of these countries were also in war, with hundreds of hells within them. And this time is during the 1st century. Verse 5, Looeamong fought no longer for the Trinity nor the Holy Ghost, but to save his heavenly kingdom, lest he be captured and cast in hell. Verse 6, and even more desperately was Baal situated against him. Verse 7, in the meantime, the other two truants began to war against each other in their heavenly kingdoms, contending for boundaries and subjects. And they're referring to the false Buddha and Brahma. Verse 8, Thoth, alias Gabriel, sent the following message to Looeamong, to wit, greeting to thee, thou most high truant, in the name of the Holy Ghost. Verse 9, wherein I am embarrassed, I pray thee, give me lenience. My suit is not without due deliberation, and through prayers to the Holy Ghost. Long have I fought thy battles, and I have gained great power and authority in many kingdoms in heaven and on earth. Now here you have Thoth, alias Gabriel, who is the chief angel establishing Looeamong on earth. Here Thoth goes through numerous gods that do not heed the Trinity God's doctrine on earth. Verse 10, but behold, I labor against gods who have the advantage of me, the Chinese rebel gods and the Indian rebel gods that fled from the truant kingdoms in the east have taken upon themselves names popular with mortals, Witness these names. And here is a rundown of all the names, these gods that fled the eastern kingdoms and settled over Rome and Europe. These are the names that they took for themselves. Nestor, Elias, Pueth, Neptune, Elias, Poseidon, Olius, Elias, Pendra, Priam, Elias, Hogath, Phobos, Elias, Wanwakax, Elias, Apollo, Pals, Elias, Shungansita, Pallades, Elias, Peleus, Saturn, Elias, Kronos, Thalia, Elias, Musa, Festor, Elias, Suko, Elias, Byrith, Elias, Kalkas, Thetis, Elias, Arama, Elias, Ma, Elias, Mara, Elias, Achilia, Elias, Argos, Venus, Elias, Sienaut, Elias, Vishnu, Elias, Mara, Elias, Thoth, Elias, Theo, Vulcan, Elias, Anawaha, Elias, Ar, Elias, Egna, Elias, Hephaestion, Kalanisi, Elias, Vrita, Hecla, Elias, Ja, Elias, Tyronia, Elias, Neleus, Nemetris, Elias, Itra, Elias, Promethea, Elias, Eri, Elias, Mithra, Obsendes, Elias, Melitus, Elias, Brahma, Elias, Ishaka, Elias, Davitat, Elias, Sakaya, Elias, Morototha, Ferna, Elias, Holasa, Elias, Io, Elias, Kritit, Elias, Thammuz, Spio, Elias, Pallades, Elias, Hecla, Elias, Vulcan, Thor, Elias, Padua, Elias, Hermes, Elias, Belis, Belus, Elias, Hieroth, Elias, Yosamus, Theo, Elias, Thor, Elias, Neptune, Elias, Orion, Elias, Aph, Elias, Thulas, Curonus, Elias, Vishnu, Elias, Ahambri, Elias, Isna, Elias, Attis, Elias, Etus. Verse 11, Thought, Elias, Gabriel continued, and yet these are not all, for these gods have no fear of the Holy Ghost, and they chose any name that will be flattering to mortals, and the musicians and priests and such others as have power to hear the voices of spirits are led to believe that they hear the very gods whose names are given. The majority of these gods were from the district of Baal, located in Europe. This would be your Greek gods and the pagan customs before Christianity. Verse 12, This then is my misfortune, though most holy God of the true one. I am commanded to give but one name, even the Holy Ghost, or the Father, to mortals. Or whether my angel hosts speak to the oracles or to persons capable of hearing spirits, and say to them, Fight ye for the Holy Ghost, or fight ye for the creative elements, mortals heed us not. Or they are irreverently mocking us, saying, What care we for a God that is but a ghost, a shadow, a creative element? Give us gods that talk, and of themselves. We want no angels from the Holy Ghost. Bring your gods, and let the oracles tell us what they say. Verse 13, Looeamong then sent messengers and a suitable escort to Jerusalem on the earth, where Thoth, Elias Gabriel, was stationed at the time, with an angel host of warriors commanding his presence before his holy council in Hepsendai, Looeamong's heavenly city and kingdom. Verse 14, Now, after Thoth, Elias Gabriel went hither, and they held a council of many days, a disturbance arose in the council, in consequence of the heat of the debate. Verse 15, For the gods of the council, for the most part, said, What better are we than the Jehovians? What greater power have we than the Jehovians? Who can answer the philosophies of Thoth, Elias Gabriel? It is the truth. Mortals have never been satisfied with an angel from the gods. they want the God himself. Verse 16. Was not this forever the weakness of the Jehovians? Such angels could give no name that mortals knew, except they falsely assume a name. Hence their weakness compared to such an angel, such unscrupulously assumed to be gods. Verse 17. We all know these things before our holy confederacy was formed. Yeah, one of the chief reasons for forming a confederacy in heaven was that we might more effectively overcome the power of evil spirits over mortals. Verse 18. In that day we said, the three persons, the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost, would enable us to appear in person and with authority unto mortals. Verse 19.